I just want to preface everything. When they gave me 18 minutes, that was pretty good because a few years back, I was asked to speak at a clinic out at SeaTac Airport in Seattle for a coach's clinic. They gave me 3 hours and I went over. So I'll do my best to keep you engaged and not bore you too much. I grew up in the era in the 50s and 60s, Vince Lombardi, Bear Bryant, and Woody Hayes. And that's really who shaped my philosophy that I try to go forth today with. At the time when I was growing up, television, there may be one game on a week. Social media wasn't what it is today. And my models, my role models from a distance were coaches. My dad in East Town was my baseball coach. And he shaped a lot of my values. He shaped a lot of the things that I didn't realize at the time as a 10, 12, 13-year-old would later on help me to be where I'm at today at 63 years old. I just finished my 40th year of college coaching. And the word compassion is really, it's a word that part of it is with me, passion. The compassionate part is something I've really struggled with. And a few years back, I really dealt with a serious problem. I had a meltdown in coaching. I wasn't sure that the compassion part of my makeup, my DNA, was what was going to strive to be best for Carroll College and for the football program at that time. And I really had to come to grips and look back at different things that I thought were important in my life. And what was it that I was really doing? Was college coaching, was coaching football and ministry, was a vocation for me. And I really had to take a step back and sit down with my family, my wife, my senior O'Neill in town, my sons, and really come to an understanding on what it is I wanted to do and how do you balance that compassion and still striving for a competitive edge, because I'm a very competitive person. I grew up in East Helena, and I was not a good loser. Coming to Helena, I did not like losing to Helena teams. And I drew that from my coaching when I started in 1975, my first year, or 1976, my first year of coaching. I drew from my experience because we're all a product of our own environment. And what I found out was the competitive nature in me served well when I was an assistant football coach. And then 18 years ago when I came to Carroll College in 1999, as the head coach, a lot of things had to change in terms of my DNA, my makeup. And what I put together a few years ago is what I call the 10 C's of Carroll College football. And it starts with character, competitiveness, courage, commitment, compassion, the challenges, being coachable, a community, and the last two, which I really try to strive and put a lot of emphasis on with our football player, are choices, and with every choice there's a consequence. Well, from that, the compassion part of it is very strong in terms of how do you balance that, because on Saturday afternoon, if you see me, there's not much compassion on the sidelines. But that's a short window of who I am. That's a short 3 hours of my interaction with our football players. We spend an inordinate amount of time with our players outside of a football game. And coaching football is unique in the sense that we only play 10, 11, 12 football games a year. Baseball, Legion, 70, 75 games in the summertime. Basketball goes year-round. My son, who's a hockey player, played 3 years of juniors in Canada. He had 192 games in 3 years. And we play 10, 11, 12 games. We practice 7 times more than we actually play. So the competitive part shows up on Saturday. The passion part shows up on Saturday. And where the rest of it takes place, the rest of these values, the rest of these core C's take place as well in the off season, December through August, as well as Sunday through Friday. And that's where I really had to step back in 2012 and say, why am I doing this? And what is it that I really want to convey to our players? And am I going to make an impact on them? And where's it going to come from? And I really believe, and I've talked it, but I didn't walk it for a long time. The scoreboard is a small part of the young men that we're developing. And I certainly don't want them to be labeled for the rest of their lives on just what takes place on the scoreboard. And that's been a real tough situation because we've had a lot of success on the field, off the field. But when you have that success on the field, then it's almost like it's kind of expected in the next class. And hopefully that's why young men come to Carroll College, is because the academic excellence, the staff and faculty that we we have at Carroll College, and also what we will expect on the football field and striving for that competitive excellence. I really believe in taking this from Vince Lombardi. I practice, I coach, I work every day to be perfect, and I'm never going to get there. But in that work towards being perfect, I hope I can strive for excellence. When I'm sitting in a room with one-on-one with a young man, he comes in my office, and something is happening in his life external of the football game, external of his God-given talent. It may be where he's battling depression. Maybe there was a tragic situation in his family, such as Heather Lieber is going through right now. Maybe it's a situation where a parent lost a job, or he's homesick. Or what happens 99% of the time in the first 6 weeks of a young man's college career, his girlfriend dumps him back home. That's where I have an opportunity to develop a relationship beyond being a coach player. And that's what I enjoy, and I didn't realize it at the time. I get an opportunity, hopefully, to make an impact in their lives. But beyond that, really what it comes around 360 degrees is they're making an impact in my life. They're making an impact in our coaches' lives at the Carroll campus, hopefully in the Helena community. And when we talk about the compassion boundaries, or where does it start and where does it stop, certainly on Saturday at 1 o'clock when the gun goes off or the coin flip, that's where I'm tunnel vision. My wife calls it anal. I call it tunnel. It's the only thing we disagree on. But I really take it to heart on Saturday because my experience in college was pluses plus minuses. There was good, there was bad. And I want these young men to achieve every dream they ever had growing up, playing big-time college football, going on and doing something that they have a talent for, that they realize this is what they want to do. And in that 19, 18, they go to college. At 22, 23, it comes to a grinding halt. And the competitive part of that is over on the football field, but it carries over to everything else that they do. They're very competitive in everything that they do, whether it's job hunting, whether it's playing noon basketball, being in a biology class, whatever it is, they're very competitive. And I don't want them to ever lose that edge, but there is a line that has to be drawn at some point. And how do I get from the compassion part to the competitive part and back again? One word describes it all, and that's relationships. In our football program, we talk about the 4 F's: faith, family, friends, and you're right, football. Within that, there's 3 dynamics that have to take place for us to be successful as a program in terms of more than just wins and losses. We have to have a great player-player relationship within our football program and in our locker room. We have to have a great coach-coach relationship amongst our staff, and I think that's evident by the fact that 3 of us have been together 18 years, and our friendships go back for 40 years. And then there has to be a dynamic of a player-coach relationship. Now, these players don't need a 63-year-old buddy, and I explain that to them. But I am a friend. But there's a time as a head coach, there's a time as a position coach, and there is a pecking order that certain things have to take place in order for me to relay to you what I want you to be able to experience in college and how it is I want you to be successful beyond the scoreboard. And for a long time, I didn't understand that because the only thing that was in my tunnel vision was that scoreboard. I felt for a long time in coaching, more so as a player when I was younger, but even more so when I became a head coach, is that I am judged by all of you, by the community, by my peers across the country, by my win-loss record. So for me, there was no compassion in my life in terms of that because that was what the dynamic was that I was taught to believe, that in order to be successful, it's what's going to take place and how do people look at me at the end of the season and what our win-loss record was and how do we go from there to the next year and how is that success going to be the following season. And when it doesn't happen, then my self-worth, my self-value really took a hit and I really had to step back and I thought, well, if this is happening to me, then that's what I'm conveying to our players as well. And in 2012, it really hit me right between the eyes. That's not what I want for them. I want for them to have a great experience, and I want them to enjoy it. And yes, are there disappointments? Sure. But it's a football game. And when I realized the other day we were talking, we had a situation on campus, and unfortunately, it's not a big deal. In this big scheme of life, it's a setback for this young man. But Heidi and I were talking about it, and I said, well, when he was out there doing this, wasn't he thinking about September 3rd this fall, we're playing Montana Tech? I said, I don't understand that. She said, when he was out doing what he was doing, Mike, he wasn't thinking about Montana Tech. I said, but I'm thinking about Montana Tech every day. Why isn't he? Well, the difference is it's a job for me. And I mean a job in a good way, not a job that I dread going to work. It's a job that I love. It's a passion that I love. But for these young guys, there's so many other things that encompass their lives. There's so many other things that are being bombarded. And that's the social media, that's the friendships, that's getting through Carroll College. What am I going to do when I graduate next year? What's the future hold for me? There's so many different dynamics that go through that I forgot what it was like being 22, 23 years old and worrying about, does Sally Brown from the Pie Fi House still like me? What was I going to do? Well, Greg Gray's going to go to Carroll, Wyoming, coach swimming, and I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't know where I'm going. What am I going to do with my life? And I forgot to put myself back in that place because I love college, but I forgot to put myself in their shoes on what I went through in the 70s. And that's where I have to draw that competitive edge that I still have a burning fire. I don't like losing, but I want to be compassionate because there's other things in their lives that these young people are experiencing. And football for me is a lot. It is a big time in my life. But for them, they got to experience the rest of it. And that's what I hope I can now convey to them is that, yes, I want you to win a championship if it's possible. That's what I'm here to give you my dreams, my hopes, my resources to put into your dreams, your hopes, and all the things that have brought you to this point, and how can we move forward from that, and how can we do it beyond just on Saturday, because I love when they come in. When they're freshmen, a freshman never walks into my office unless he's a linebacker because I'm his coach. A freshman only walks in my office that first semester unless he's in trouble. Then he has to come and see me. Second semester is different. That second semester now, they come in, it's like they own the place. They feel comfortable. It's that relationship that we've developed, that I've developed with them, to let them know I'm just not worried about cover 4, Raven, Eagle, Twist, Razor, whatever the call may be on Saturday. I want to know who they are. I want to know what's going on in their lives, and come and talk to me, and I'm your friend outside of the other time we spend together. Because when you graduate, our friendships are going to go beyond that. It's not that the day you graduate, the last football game you play for us, now we're not having a relationship anymore. A number of my best friends are former teammates, former coaches, and former players. I've been in their weddings. I've been at their baptisms. I've enjoyed that part of it, and I hope to continue that part of it. And that balance goes now to your family. I grew up with a great family. My mom and dad were my heroes. They were hardworking, they were blue collar, they didn't go to college, but they made a great life with my future as their focal point. I'm an only child. I'm not very good at sharing. But I love what they taught me in terms of hard work and being true and doing what I really had a passion for, whatever it was going to be. And to balance my life with my family has afforded me to be what I do. I had a job, and people, one of the topics they talked to me and they threw out to me was, how did you sacrifice your family for your career? I did not sacrifice our family for my career. My family is a big part of my life, a big part of my career. I had a job where I could take my sons to work. They could go on the field and play catch with all Americans. They could go to bowl games. They could go to championship games and run the field and celebrate with the players. They could ride in the back of the bus with Marcus Bond and Regan Mack and get a great education that they didn't get in the classroom. My family was a big part of it, and I'm a big part of their life. And there's times I did bring the problems home because it affected us. But there's a lot of times I drove up in that driveway after a practice, and maybe it wasn't a very good practice, and linebackers didn't know cover 4, Raven, Razor, whatever it was. And I either had to drive around the block a couple times before I went home for dinner, or sit down and listen to a Garth Brooks song, catch my breath and go in and ask how their day was. And I did that a lot. Their lives were intertwined wherever I coached. My sons grew up at my job. And it impacted them and informed who they are today. And my wife is one of my heroes. She's a third grade teacher at Rossiter. And how she interacts with those young students, I'm jealous. I wish I could interact sometimes the same way with 19, 20, 21-year-old football players. She has a great connection to them. And it's all about relationships. We're still going to be very competitive on Saturday afternoon. And I sometimes wish I could tone things down. I don't know if it'll ever happen. There's times I am better. But the players know that I'm not just the coach on Saturday. They've had a chance to be up to my house. Players have babysat for us. They're in our house for meals. They come up all the time. My son played freshman hockey back at Saint Norbert. And in baseball, football, and hockey, whatever it is, he's always worn number 6. And number 6 is because of a volleyball player named Annie Storer at the University of Wyoming who babysat him when he was 2 and 3 years old. That's an impact an athlete had on him. That's an impact I hope I have on my athletes. And what I continue to do, what I want to continue to do, is develop a relationship within our football program, within a coach-player relationship, that they feel comfortable and they could come and talk to me about their situations, about the hard time they're having in class, about the times they're homesick. Am I doing the right things? There's some players, there's some students, it's not the right fit to come to Carroll College. I understand that. There's a number of them who sat in my office and cried. There's a number who sat in my office and said, I'm leaving. And then they stay and they graduate. They're captains. They're great husbands. They're great fathers. Beyond being number 17, being number 15, being number 76 on the football field. They are somebody beyond that. And that's what I'm very grateful for. So we will continue to be competitive. I will still learn to be compassionate. I will never lose the passion I have for being a college football coach at Carroll College. The Helena community has been great. And you realize, I hope, everybody here, and there's a lot of faces I recognize, the impact you have on your families, your friends, and the impact you have here at Carroll College. God bless you. Thank you very much.